Hey guys, so with that, we left off part one talking about the occupation of Japan. And so Douglas MacArthur, the guy who was the um, Supreme Allied Commander in the Pacific, was now basically the leader, if you will, kind of Governor General, if you will, of Japan. Japan was disarmed, lost their military. Even still today, they only have what's called a defense force, no kind of like offensive weapons. But the U.S. did help rebuild Japan. Actually, looking at how the U.S. involved in Korean War, those kind of things. We use Tokyo as a big spot in Japan, even though today there's still Navy bases in Japan for the U.S. to help create a new government that was different than the dictatorship that was in Japan earlier. Now, one of the things that Truman looks at is his own Truman Doctrine, and it was based on the idea of domino theory. And the theory here was this: is that if one country became communist, the other countries around would become communist too. And so he took out this idea of containment. It's almost like when you line up dominoes and you kind of when you line up dominoes and you push them and they all fall down, right? It's the idea of containment here. We need to contain communism where it is. And so the US started giving money to countries where there were civil wars, issues going on, to make sure that communism didn't spread. So one of the first examples are Greece and Turkey. The U.S. gave lots of money and weapons and that kind of stuff to Greece to fight against a communist revolution was happening there. They did the same exact thing in Turkey. As a way to make sure communism did not spread, it was contained where it was. In a way, the Marshall Plan was part of this too. Sometimes you get more flies with honey they do with vinegar, and so when the UN ran out of aid for Europe, John Marshall, who was the George Marshall, the U.S. Chief of Staff, steps in and says, "Hey, let's give money to Europe," and instead of $13 billion that's given to any European country who wants to use it, and Stalin says, "Any country that's in our group, in our bloc, can't take that money." And it's the idea that you can get countries to your side, help them versus Soviet Union. Now, one country where this didn't work out so well in is China. Obviously, China was involved with Japan in World War II. They were fighting against Japan. And after the war, they had this civil war going on, communist versus democratic. So Mao Zedong was the communist leader from the rural area of China. Chiang Kai-shek was the democratic leader from the more urban areas who was corrupt to help the United States. So he's kind of running things kind of for himself, helping his own people, those kind of things. And so the Civil War breaks out. And in the end of this whole Civil War, the U.S. does help try to back the Democratic Party. The communists win. Chiang Kai-shek and his government has to leave, and is still actually in exile yet in Taiwan. And so then the China side to side with the USSR. So actually, we have this whole issue where already this idea of containment is not working because now China becomes a communist country in the early 1950s. What we see here is an arms race. The Soviets do get their own nuclear info. Actually, get it from us through some spies. And by 1949, Soviet Union is already testing their own nuclear weapon, and they're on par with us. So now we have this arms race that gets going. The idea of who can build a bigger, badder bomb. And so we decided to test the H bomb, the hydrogen bomb. It's actually 1,000 times more powerful than an A bomb. And so we start testing it publicly to say, hey, look at us. We got this. You want to mess with us kind of thing? And that's kind of how we start testing these nuclear weapons. And so the Soviets, of course, developed their own H bomb as well, and they have to start testing it back and forth. We start seeing this issue now where we have this arms race, if you will, and kind of this great show of like, look at what I got kind of thing, trying to show off to say, don't mess with me, kind of between the Soviet Union and the U.S. And so we kind of go for almost like this bargain-based defense and start getting rid of soldiers and making our army smaller and invest more in A bombs and long-range bomber planes. Kind of the idea is that we're gonna get rid of our regular army we used in previous wars, but if you mess up with us, we're gonna nuke you. That's what it comes down to. So it's kind of like putting all of our eggs in one basket. These long-range bomber planes that can fly to the Soviet Union or whatever, and fly wherever, and still be able to use those to help defense. So kind of that threat of, hey, you mess with us, we're gonna drop the bomb on you. Last slide here, guys. We do see the different world organizations develop after the war as well. One group, which is mostly Western European countries in the U.S. and Canada, is called NATO. It's 10 countries. They're kind of the darkish color here. Portugal, France, Italy, West Germany, so on and so forth. Those are NATO countries. They're basically an alliance made with the United States and Western Europe against essentially communist countries. So the idea here was that if one country's attacked, everybody's responding back up that country that was attacked. Soviet Union answers with their own group called the Warsaw Pact, based on the city of Warsaw, Poland. So it took the 7 communist countries and made the Warsaw Pact countries that are going to be the response to NATO. So in a way, you kind of already see the situation from before World War II and World War One come back to afterwards, and that fear of if a war happens one place, it's going to be another place comes up again. All right, guys, that's your intro. Thank you for the extra time. Please make sure these are done for Tuesday. See you guys later.